Minnesota and Michigan have defined championships in the Big Ten over the last few years, and this year, this weekend, no different. These two will determine the championship road once again. It's the opener of a 4-game series. All 4 games we are going to bring you this weekend on the Big Ten Network. A top 25 matchup between number 19 Michigan and number 23 Minnesota. The top 8 in the Big Ten standings going into this weekend looks like this. Now, if all 4 games are played and Michigan wins all 4 games of this weekend, the Wolverines would clinch the Big Ten regular season championship. With the former USA National Player of the Year, Jenny Ritter, I'm Lisa Byington. And Jenny, you know, I mentioned that the Big Ten Network is showing all 4 games this weekend between Minnesota and Michigan. That's because they have defined championships in the past, and this year it's no different.
No different at all. This is going to be the most exciting series because you've got such a dynamic 2 teams going up against each other. They're going to battle. It's going to be a great chess match, and I can't wait to see it.
Well, you're an All-American pitcher for the Wolverines, and so I know that you love the fact that we have not 1, not 2, not 3, but we got 4 pitching studs to watch this weekend.
And every single one of them is phenomenal. It doesn't matter who they pick. They're 1A, they're 1B on their pitching staff. It is going to be such a battle for both of these offenses to find a way to chip away against such great pitchers.
Carol Hutchins had kind of hinted that she might change the lineup a little bit, but she didn't, at least for this Friday. And we're looking at Taylor Bump, who has bumped her way all the way up to the cleanup spot.
Yeah, Taylor Bump has really risen in this offense. 330, but 8 home runs. They're really looking in that cleanup spot to see her really produce with a Blair Rodriguez-Allen in front of her. She has a chance to hit them in.
It's a Michigan offense that started out slow this year. The first couple of weekends, it's worked its way into the best team batting average in the Big Ten, sitting at 309 about going into this weekend. And that batting lineup will take on Amber Fiser. You know, with both of these schools, both of these teams, we showed you the 4 pitchers that they have a choice between. And it's Amber Fiser, the familiar name, the familiar face, who gets the start on this Friday night.
And Amber Fiser is just so fun to watch. You see that 12-5 record, the 1.97 ERA, but she has been such a mainstay in the circle for Minnesota. She keeps her team in the game.
Well, she's thrown the most innings. Autumn Pease, though, is right there with her, and she has thrown the most complete games as well. But the scouting report, I mean, we've seen her for 4 years. We should know this by now, right?
Yeah, and you'll see a lot of really great things from her. Upper 60s, she's going to go up in that zone. She's got 3 different speeds. She's got that change and an off speed along with her fast pitches, and she really determines what she's going to throw based on what she has command of at that game. And to make matters a little bit more difficult, sometimes her pitches work different on different games. So maybe it's her rise ball one game, maybe it's her curveball. It's really hard to prepare for her when you're going up against her.
Well, the interesting story, too, about Amber Fiser throughout her career, look at the name behind home plate. That's a freshman, Sarah Kinch. And Amber Fiser, we'll get into that story throughout the weekend, has had several different names and gloves and faces to throw to behind home plate in her career, but some of the other names look familiar. Brant Kemet-Mueller, Partain, of course, Den Hartog, another big name there in center field. A 971 fielding percentage for this Golden Gopher defense, which is tied for 4th best in the conference. And so we don't have always seen these 2 teams meet in the regular season. We're used to seeing Minnesota and Michigan meet in maybe a Big Ten tournament championship, but we get to watch them play for this weekend. That is the scheduling setup this year for the Big Ten Conference. And the first time that they're meeting in the regular season since 2015. A first pitch, it's a little bit high and outside. Here to Lexi Blair, the talented hitter out of Michigan. Look at that average, 427. That's a career high for her, and she's coming off actually a midweek game against Michigan State where she had a career high time, 4 hits against the Spartans.
Hey, let's go 3! And Lexi Blair, she's such an igniter for this team. I mean, you saw that 427 batting average. She just finds a way to get on base, and she's on so often. Michigan's actually able offensively to kind of figure out how to work it around, knowing that she'll be on base.
jumps ahead in the count here, the 2-0 count. She swings away, the dribbler there to second base. McKenna Partain handles it for the first out. To talk about a player where you feel like they've been there forever. And McKenna Partain is one of those, solidified herself in the second base spot, and one of those super seniors that has decided to come back to play one more year for Minnesota. They got a few of them. They're actually going to be honored during their senior weekend this weekend.
Yeah, I always say it's the ultimate compliment when you say, gosh, hasn't she been there for 8-10 years, it feels like? Because she's just always been so good. And McKenna Partain always won when you think about Minnesota. Probably the first on my list that I feel like has been there for so long.
And the Miss Michigan coaching staff would like to help her graduate maybe this weekend.
No kidding.
And usher her out of Minneapolis. Here's Natalia Rodriguez batting in the 2 spot.
Good job by Fizer here to get ahead on Rodriguez. Not really bringing her pitches in on the zone much, though. She's still living out on those corners, forcing Rodriguez to really need to swing her bat now behind in the count, too. It allows Fizer to kind of do a little bit more outside of the plate.
Yeah, the exact opposite count than the leadoff batter with Lexi Blair, where she fell behind 2-0. The 0-2 to Rodriguez. That one's high. Rodriguez lays off.
I think if you go and you analyze Lexi Blair swinging at a strike after 2 balls, you know that's going to be a good pitch. That's why she went after it, but it was still on the corner. Rodriguez here is now going to have to fight because Fizer can throw whatever she wants, like go up in that zone. Rodriguez is going to be really disciplined.
Disciplined on that pitch, lays off again, and the count's now at 2-2. That one low and outside.
Yeah, and this pitch absolutely low and outside, but close enough to that plate that you might get Rodriguez to want to swing, to check her swing even. That's what you do. You work that ladder outside of that corner as much as you can, especially if you're ahead in the count.
Swings away at that one, pops it up again to Partain, who's responsible for both outs here so far. And now comes up the 3-hitter here for Michigan. We talked about Taylor Bump, but Lou Allen is right there with Bump in terms of a couple of the hottest hitters in this lineup, and they sit 3 and 4 fittingly in this lineup for Michigan.
And the potential of Lou Allen, just in her capability, the power that she has, she can really do a lot if she squares up a ball. Dealt with a lot of injuries, though, so she's really trying to just find that swing and stay consistent. She's been pretty good this year.
Pretty good in the fact that career highs and batting average, all those numbers that you saw are basically career highs for her this year. Batting average, home runs, RBI. And what a season she has had. And you mentioned it, Jenny, a lot of it, she hasn't had a whole lot of collegiate at-bats because of injuries that she's battled throughout her career. Here's the 1-1, and Pump lets it sail and fly, and Michigan is on the board. Lou Allen with a 9th home run this year, and Lou Allen having some fun there. 1-0 for the Wolverines.
She has just such a sweet swing when she finds the pitch that she's looking for. She can lift it out of the park. Take a look at this pitch, just inside corner, but over the plate a little bit. Lou Allen stays in front of it, hits it out in front, and drives it back over the fence. That's the kind of power that she has. Puts Michigan on the board early on here in the game.
An 8-game hit streak is now a 9-game hit streak for Lou Allen. And coming into this game, tied for the team lead with this player in terms of home runs with 8 of them, but now she's jumped ahead with 9. And we'll see what Taylor Bump can do in this at-bat. Bump pops it up into foul territory. It only took one swing of the bat. Lou Allen did the damage, and the Wolverines strike first. this Minnesota batting order's got some work now to do. McKenna Partain, we talked about her defensively and batting-wise. Offensively, she's in the 2 spot tonight.
Yeah, leading her team in batting average, but she's in that 2 spot to get some at-bats, to really battle away. She has such a great softball mind. She sees a lot of pitches, and that's going to be key for Den Hartog and Kevin Mueller behind her.
This Michigan coaching staff always has a dilemma. Which ace do we go with to start? And they go with Megan Beaubien on this Friday.
Megan Beaubien just been phenomenal as usual. 1.36 ERA, second in that Big Ten, and she just finds a way to get it done. She is a solid pitcher through and through.
Megan Beaubien having a little bit more rest than Alex Duraco. I mentioned that Michigan, they played a midweek game against Michigan State on Wednesday. That whole Michigan State 4-game series earlier this year was postponed, and so they've been able to make up a couple of the 4, at least in a midweek, and the second one to make up was this past Wednesday, and Alex Duraco pitched the entire game. But Megan Beaubien, again, another senior that we see in the circle here to start, and a lefty, but what can we expect here in her senior year?
Well, you're going to see a lot of high speed, high 60s, sometimes low 70s. She's going to throw that curveball as a lefty in different heights and locations, as you see her throwing it to Ellie Jensen here at bat. But the biggest thing about her is her changeup. It's reemerged as a solid pitch for her. She lost it a little bit last year. Now she's bringing it back in the zone, and it drops heavy.
She's facing Ellie Jensen, who takes that one in for a strike. And Jensen was actually the number 9 hitter, was moved up to the leadoff spot in the Iowa series. She hit there about 3 of the 4 games and has kind of stayed in that spot. You see her average there, it's slowly moving up. And she is also one who has dealt with some injuries in her career. Here's the 1-2. Ellie Jensen, let's not forget what she was able to do her freshman year. That was her best year. The 3rd freshman in program history, Minnesota program history, to hit 400 or better. But since that freshman year, like I said, she's been dealing with some injuries, and hopefully that this is her healthiest year yet. And now the count goes full.
And Jensen's doing a really good job working the count here as the leadoff, allowing the rest of her lineup to see more of Beaubien's pitches. Sitting well on that last pitch, a changeup that was up in the zone, but she stayed back well, almost as if she could read it here early on in the game.
Here's the payoff to Jensen. She fouls it away. This Minnesota coaching staff felt like they could get her, maybe build her confidence, get her some at-bats with no pressure, putting her in the 9th spot early this year. And the payoff once again to Jensen. It's a bouncer to short, and Rodriguez is there with that strong arm. Jensen made it tight, though, for the first out.
Jensen's got some speed. It forces Rodriguez to make a quick play, and boy, was that quick. Quick release from Rodriguez to get the out. Take a look here. You can see the catch. Ooh.
Boy, that's tight.
Yeah, look how quick Jensen gets out of the box and really makes a good attempt there to get on base. Rodriguez is just a touch quicker.
McKenna Partain to the plate and sits and watches that first strike. Partain with that team high batting average, .356 this year. Hit her off the elbow, so she'll take her base. Megan Beaubien has hit 11 batters here this year, and that one, that free base to McKenna Partain. She's got a pretty good defense behind her, though. We've seen a ball go to Rodriguez's way. This is the best fielding percentage in the Big Ten, the names that you see on your screen right there. And necessarily, they had to make some position changes early in the year. It wasn't always Taylor Bump at 3rd base or Lou Allen at 1st base, but now they're kind of settling into a defensive rhythm with those names this year. Den Hartog is your next batter for Minnesota.
Den Hartog, the type of hitter that drives in runs in that 3 spot. You get somebody like Partain on in front of you, her job is just to drive that ball somewhere in a gap. Advance Partain.
A little change look there from Beaubien. And they're eyeing Partain there at first base to keep her back.
Just a beautiful pitch on the inside corner. Does not get the strike call. You see the smile on Megan Beaubien's face. But moves across that plate.
The 1-1 to Den Hartog. That one cuts across into the strike zone.
Take a look at this changeup again. The curveball. As it cuts outside and curves back into that plate. Just brushes that corner.
And the 1-2 here from Beaubien, and she gets Den Hartog swinging. The first strikeout for Beaubien tonight.
Beaubien living on the outside corner with Den Hartog up in that zone. Gets Den Hartog to go for it. Doesn't get her bat on top of that ball and eventual strikeout, but that's what Beaubien can do. She can mix it up. She has a lefty up there. She goes curveball, 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 away, away, away. And then a righty gets up and she's able to stay away from them with that screwball and rise ball.
There's that change look again. And the first pitch, too, to Kemet Mueller. She goes change. And that's the problem with some of these batters. I mean, whenever you're facing Megan Beaubien, right, Jenny? I mean, she can throw a change in almost any pitch and any count.
And for a strike, and that's the thing. You could sit back and wait on and not hit a change and wait for one of her fast pitches to come in, but she can get you on a change. And you've got to be really careful. That pitch well on the outside corner. If she's going to get a wide corner like that, if you're Megan Beaubien and getting that corner, you're going to keep throwing it out there. You better. You just keep working out, work that ladder, and force Minnesota, expand that strike zone, force them to swing at something further out of the zone.
It's a kind of strike zone that you as a pitcher kind of lick your lips at, right?
Absolutely. A lot of times you can get a little bit tighter in that zone, and sometimes when you start off the game by hitting those outside corners and you're getting the umpire to call those strikes, you just got to keep reminding him that he's been calling it a strike. Keep throwing it there.
Another swing and a miss. There goes Partain to second base. And Beaubien strong. They leave a runner stranded and no runs for Minnesota. Lou Allen has the only score here for Michigan, and in this game with a one swing of the bat here in the top of the first, the solo shot put the Michigan Wolverines up, and look at the kind of the shrug and that reaction, Jenny Ritter, from Amber Pfizer after giving up that home run.
What it looks like to me is she's saying, well, that wasn't. I mean, she threw the pitch where it was supposed to be, and sometimes hitters just hit it well. And I think that's a situation. It was an inside pitch that Lou Allen hit, and hit it well.
Carson at the plate, swings at the first pitch, and flies out to Chloe Evans for the first out. And we have a new right fielder, Allie Lindner. Transitions into this spot defensively in the place of Ellie Jensen. Once we get some information about that substitution, we'll fill you in on that as well. Meanwhile, it's Julia Jimenez at the plate. A .295 average here this year. She's bounced around a little bit, position changes, second base, third base. She's found a home at second base right now for the Wolverines. Coming off really outside of the midweek game against Michigan State, where she went 0 for 4, she actually was coming off her best hitting series of the year against Penn State. Hitting about 500 with 3 RBI, a double and a triple.
Jimenez has a very good softball IQ, and sometimes when you just understand the game well, you just got to work out of the physical aspects of it, and you start hitting your stride, and then you start hitting the ball well, and that's kind of what we've seen.
Fizer going right at her that time. The second strike of this at-bat.
Fizer attacking that inside part of the zone really well. It's cutting in on the corner. Almost as if Michigan's game plan is to attack that inside pitch, because we've seen obviously Lou Allen, but even Jimenez right there really try to foul that off.
Well, she reached for the outside pitch that time, and another ground ball out, and it's out number 2. Amber Fizer, 4th all-time in program history in terms of wins, 5th all-time in terms of strikeouts. So she's not going to be a stranger to adversity and playing from behind. Being down a run is nothing that's going to faze a senior hurler like herself. And she faces Lauren Essman, the DP for Michigan, here tonight. Essman looking for a hit. Doesn't have a hit in the last 6 games. Her last hit coming against Northwestern, April 24th. Michigan hoping that she's due, and she chases the low one.
Oh, beautiful pitch there, low in the zone, forcing Essman to really go after it. Take a look at the bottom, just dropping out of that pitch. That's your goal as a pitcher, to have your pitches move in and out of the zone as best as possible.
Here's the 1-1 with 2 outs and missing everything on that. Now 2 strikes on Essman. Fizer looking sharp in this inning. She took care of 3 of the 4 batters, really, to argue that point. In the top of the 1st as well, just gave up the 1 pitch to Lou Allen. And isn't that the game of softball, Jenny? You know that well. You give up 1 pitch.
Sometimes that's all it takes, and again, it wasn't a bad pitch. Sometimes hitters just beat you, but I think if you're Fizer, you just move on. She's a senior, she's resilient, she gets it. She moves on, she does what she has to for her team.
Another ground ball, and again to Brandt. And Fizer has turned the page, so has Minnesota. Now can they turn over this offense? We'll see. Softball on the Big Ten Network is brought to you by State Farm. When you want the real deal, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Fans at Minnesota. The first time they've been allowed to take in a Minnesota softball game here in 2021. The general admission fans at James Sage Cole Stadium. And it's 21st season hosting Minnesota softball and hosting a great weekend series. Again, a 4-game set between Michigan and Minnesota. And we'll show you all 4 games on the Big Ten Network. Megan Beaubien back to work here in the bottom of the 2nd inning. And facing the 5, 6, and 7 hitters. Chloe Evans at the plate to lead things off here for Minnesota. Evans just 6 starts actually in her career this year in 25 games. She's a freshman. All of them coming in the last 6 games. You make it 7 if you count tonight. That one catching the outside corner.
And that pitch on a curveball, when it curves away from a lefty, is so difficult. And you can see if you can get a strike called that way, you want to keep throwing it, but that is one of Megan Beaubien's good pitches that she's going to go to for most of this game.
Now she gets her chasing. First batter, first strikeout of this inning, and the 3rd of the game for Megan Beaubien. Make it 3 straight.
And this is kind of what I was saying. If you have a good curveball and it curves away, then you've got lefties starting to fish for it over and over again. This pitch way out of the zone, but Evans cannot lay off. It just continually moves away. And that's the command that Megan Beaubien, as a lefty, has on lefty hitters to me. I think she just commands lefty hitters beautifully.
Sarah Kinch, the freshman, the catcher for Minnesota, stepping in for the Gophers. She has worked her way into that starting spot behind home plate. One of her best hitting series was the Iowa series. She hit 400 in that series. And she fouls that one back.
If you're Minnesota and you're prepping for this game, we talk about righties and lefty hitters. Every single batter so far that Beaubien has thrown to that's been a righty, she's gone screwball, 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 all on the outside corner. The lefties have gone curveball, curveball, curveball. So if you're seeing that and you're coming up to deck, that or up to hit, that's where you need to evaluate where you need to hit and find that pitch and drive it.
Well, she fouls that one back. You saw Piper Ritter there, the head coach from Minnesota, technically in year number 1 as the head coach, and we know her as being the pitching coach. She still is the pitching coach in addition to being the head coach, but she talked to us about she can warm up and get her players ready for Michigan, but the one thing that she doesn't have is a left arm. So she can't really get them with the same look that Megan Beaubien provides them here tonight. Like that, and again on the outside, and make it the 4th strikeout.
And this just a screwball hitting that outside corner. Again, you expand the strike zone on that outside corner. You force batters to swing and miss. That's what Sarah Kinch did here. She had to fish for it behind in the count. Another good strikeout for Beaubien.
Yeah, all 4 of those strikeouts have come right in a row. The last 2 outs of the first inning and the first 2 outs here in the second. And in steps Emily Hansen as the DP for Minnesota.
You have a good point, though, about, you know, Piper Ritter throwing. First of all, the fact that she can throw to her team is a really great benefit to them, just as good as she is as a pitcher, or was, I still say is. But you're right, as a lefty, she can't command a curveball the same way. It doesn't move the same way. So it's really hard when you've got a coach that you're used to coming at you. I mean, if you ask Piper Ritter, she's going right at her hitters. It's not about trying to give them something they can hit. But she can't emulate a lefty well enough to really prepare as well as they normally do.
And here's Emily Hansen with the 0-2 check swing. Did she go for it? She did not. So this at-bat stays alive.
Hansen really questioning what she wants to swing at here. Did that bat cross the plane of the plate? I think it was close. Stays alive here in the at-bat.
Beaubien flirting with the outside corner again. The count's now at 2-2.
She's gotten that call part of the game today so far. So if you're a Minnesota hitter, you've got to try to foul that off in a lot of cases. Hansen got away with one there.
Well, she's fresh. She's looked sharp here so far. Again, 4 straight strikeouts. Make it 5 straight. Beaubien red hot to begin this one in Minneapolis.
Beaubien is just dealing, mixing her pitches around, forcing these Minnesota batters to swing and miss. So outstanding. Michigan comes back on offense.
Well, Carol Hutchins has said, you know, the one thing I've enjoyed this year is the fact that we get to play all 13 of the other teams in the conference really for the first time, and they get to meet Minnesota in the regular season. Again, it's not something that has happened much in the past few years, but Carol Hutchins knows this place really well. When we had our Zoom call with her, she was reminiscing about a certain year, 1992, where she said, you know, I remember a championship that we won in 1992. It was actually the first Big Ten championship that Michigan won, and they did it at Minnesota. She said, I've forgotten a memory or two in my many years here in coaching, but that one I remember very clearly. Sierra Kirsten, who will lead things off. There's that championship team from 1992. A couple notable faces here. Kelly Kovac, who's Kelly Kovac Shanley, the head coach for Ohio State, was the Big Ten pitcher and freshman of the year. And how about on the right side, our Big Ten Network fan, Carol Bruggeman. And a shout out to her. I think she's taking in this one and watching this one from her couch here tonight. How about those puffy hairdos that was so in back in 1992?
I love it. I don't think my hair would fit in 1992.
Get out.
But this was an incredible team. This is when I was growing up. Lisa, this is the team that I watched. It was awesome. fun to be local at that time and really get to know softball.
You were like 7 in 1992, weren't you?
I was 8.
That was close.
Hey, but softball's fun. You gotta watch it. You gotta start young.
You weren't old enough to worry about your bangs or your hair when you were 8 years old.
That is true. That's a true statement.
Well, again, I mean, both of these head coaches, these players, these programs give a nod to one another. I mean, really, when you're looking at the regular season, and in particular the Big Ten Tournament Championship, it's basically Minnesota and Michigan have taken the titles the last few years. That's what makes this matchup so unique. And Fizer went right at Kirsten for the strikeout. It's her first of the game.
A good battle for Fizer here. She moved her pitches across the zone. This one up and out, almost like a screwball rise ball. As it gets out of the zone, Kirsten takes a big swing at it. A big strikeout.
Haley Hogenrod with the big cut as the number 9 hitter for Michigan.
These Minnesota pitchers, there's a lot of discussion that Piper Ritter talks with them about going first pitch strike, first or second pitch strike. She doesn't demand a first pitch strike, but one of the first two. So if you're Michigan, you've got to be aware that your best pitches are likely going to be the first or second pitch that Fizer throws to you. I think Haley Hogenrod, in spite of the fact that she swung and missed on that pitch, was likely the best pitch that she's going to see in an at-bat.
How about this, Jenny? 4 out of 9 batters first pitch strikes for Fizer here tonight. And here's the 1-1 to Hogenrod. Inside for the strike.
Again, a beautiful pitch from Fizer in the inside corner. She just does a good job moving left and right across the plate. That's why she's getting a lot of ground outs, a lot of pop flies, and some strikeouts. She's not giving them anything to really drive.
And putting that one in the air and floating it there to right field. Again, it's Lindner playing right field again for Minnesota. So 4 fly ball outs for Fizer and 3 ground ball outs so far tonight.
Hey, that's your girl.
And you take away Lou Allen's home run. I mean, you've seen a pitcher's duel here, one where you've seen Fizer really battle in the time that she's had and mix her pitches up. You see her commanding, you see her thinking about her pitches, what she wants to throw, and really letting her defense do the work.
Top of the order, back up, Lexi Blair swinging at that first pitch. That one a little bit of a deeper fly ball, and Lindner takes care of that one as well. Shutout for Michigan in the 3rd. 1 hit and 1 run. That's the difference right now between Michigan and Minnesota. That 1 hit and 1 run coming on courtesy of the bat of Lou Allen, who hit a solo shot in the 1st, and that's all the scoring that has been done. Other than that, a pitcher's duel between Amber Fizer and Megan Beaubien, who has retired the last 5 batters via the strikeout. And now will be 9, 1, and 2 in the bottom of the 3rd here for Minnesota. Sydney Strelo is your batter, hitting above 200. Getting the start at first base here tonight. Chases the outside.
And again, Megan Beaubien's been so solid expanding that strike zone. Minnesota, as they get here in the bottom of this lineup, Strelo and Brandt, the 8-9 hitters, need to evaluate where that strike zone is, be a little bit more patient. Strelo, a competitor at the plate, and aggressive at that plate, really swinging at some pitches that are just a touch outside of the zone. She's got to force Beaubien. This entire lineup really has to force Beaubien to bring that pitch a little bit further in.
The 1-2 to Strelo. Make it 2-2. Megan Beaubien looks confident, and that
Relaxed.
smile like she's enjoying herself tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you see a lot of intensity from Beaubien, but today I agree. She's smiling. She looks like she's having fun. Why not?
Why not indeed? 6 straight strikeouts for Megan Beaubien.
You know, Coach Hutchins talked to us a little bit about how she was just having fun because she's finally outplaying ball games. And obviously throughout the season, she's just getting better and better. This pitch up in the zone and out. Strelo, the entire at-bat, had been fishing for pitches out in that zone. So Beaubien just continued to throw pitches out of the zone, and well done. Big strikeout for her.
In steps the number 9 hitter, Carly Brandt, for Minnesota. Brandt has kind of established herself in that number 9 spot. Again, 8, 9, and 1, the scheduled hitters here for Minnesota. And to your point, Jenny, when Hutch was talking about Megan Beaubien just enjoying playing softball again, she said the opening game when they played Purdue this year, in Hutch's words, I think that was the best game of her life. Now, she struck out 19, so the stats might support that statement, but she just was fired up to play. And when she gets in that mode, when it looks like she's in that mode again here tonight, look out.
Absolutely, and I think, you know, every pitcher feels that. I mean, Pfizer can be feeling that. We can see Autumn Peace tomorrow feel it. Alex Storako tomorrow feel it. But when you get in that zone, everything is so easy. Your pitches jump, your changeups are slow. No matter what you do, the bat doesn't hit the ball. And that is, I mean, few and far between that you get those opportunities and that feeling. But when you get it, boy, those are some fun games.
Like I said, she has the freshest arm of the two between her and Alex Storako. Storako in all 9 innings struck out a program record 22 batters against Michigan State on Wednesday. And that off speed, and Brandt just got a piece of that one.
Good job by Brandt to sit back on this. It is a hard pitch to hit. She sat back on it beautifully and just got a piece of it. I think good battle there at the plate. You don't have to drive it, just foul it off when it comes in.
The 2-2 now to Brandt, and again, getting a piece just enough.
I have to think as a pitcher, because there's always healthy competition from pitcher to pitcher. If Megan Beaubien saw Alex Storako's 22 strikeout performance and she wanted to get a good handful of strikeouts to answer back, competition's a good thing.
Well, she's going to have to at least give up a run because they have to go extra innings, and she hasn't struck out every batter yet, so she's still got a little bit of work to do here to get to 23.
Maybe she'll just settle for the average, not average 19. It's pretty incredible, though, really, when pitchers can do that.
Working on the 2-2 count, and there is a beautiful looking pitch, but it just missed the strike zone. And that smile from ear to ear, the count goes full.
I had a second changeup that has kind of cut across the plate, belt high, to me, well into that strike zone. You see the smile on Megan Beaubien's face after she threw that. And a beautiful at-bat here by Carly Brandt. That's all you can ask for. Your 9-spot hitter, a defensive specialist, and she's looking to just have productive at-bats when she can. She's doing the best she can for her team right here.
Count goes full in the check swing, a slow dribbler. Brandt trying to stride it out, underhanded toss from Jimenez for the second out. We haven't seen a ground ball out in a little bit here from Megan Beaubien. She had 6 straight strikeouts, let's not forget.
Yeah, and I think that if you're Minnesota, pay attention to what Carly Brandt just did there. She battled, she saw the pitches. She didn't expand the strike zone. She fouled off what she didn't like. Yeah, it was a check swing at the end, but to me, a good quality at bat to turn the lineup over.
And so we mentioned that Allie Lindner had taken the place in right field for Ellie Jensen, and she stays in that leadoff spot, which was originally Ellie Jensen's spot. We were told by Minnesota that this Guilford coaching staff have made that substitution, Lindner in right field for Jensen before, at different spots this year. Well, Jensen could re-enter, and it's possible that she could re-enter into this game if need be.
Well, I think the hard part for Lindner here is she has not seen a Megan Beaubien that is dealing tonight. She starts off with the changeup, swings at it. Megan Beaubien goes right at her again with another changeup, then an outside curve. If you're Lindner right now, you better be sitting on that changeup, because if you swung and missed at it and then watched one, I feel like Beaubien's going to go right at her with a change.
Gets the outside and caught her looking.
Well, who needs a changeup when you have such a phenomenal curveball catching the outside of that corner for another strikeout for Beaubien?
What a game we're seeing from both of these pitchers from Michigan and Minnesota. Just one combined hit between the two of them. Amber Fiser, in her career, though, she's a senior. She hasn't necessarily seen the same face behind home plate, and these are some of the main catchers that she's had to throw to. Of course, Kendall Lindemann, the two-time Big Ten Player of the Year, is the name that jumps out to you. But Sarah Kinch is a freshman, and that was something that caught your eye, Jenny, when you saw that battery working together.
Well, yeah, you've got a freshman with a super senior, somebody who's just battled for 4 years. Excuse me, not a super senior, it's a regular senior. But battled for 4 years with different catchers, and you've got Kinch behind the plate, who's a true freshman that's really kind of learning the ropes. And a lot of times catchers command the game, and the pitcher's the one that feels like they're commanding the game.
Ground ball, Rodriguez, the backhander snap from Brandt, and can't beat out Rodriguez' speed that time. Be an infield hit for Natalia Rodriguez. And the second hit against Fiser here tonight.
And Brandt goes back on this ball, does a good job getting a glove on it, but when you're that deep into that hole with Rodriguez's speed, there's no way that you're gonna get her out. She just did a good job beating out a good ground ball in the infield.
What did Carol Hutchins tell us? That's exactly why they keep Natalia Rodriguez there in that 2 spot. If her hitting is up or down, they know that she can make something happen with exactly what you saw there, just the speed and trying to create things on the base pass.
And then you think about the reason why you put her in that 2 spot too, with Lou Allen behind her and the swing that she had her last at bat. Now you've got a runner on base for Lou to make some magic.
Well, Lou Allen fouls that one out of play. The last time she was up to bat, again, she had her team-leading 9th home run, and you see that this is amazing to look at this Michigan offense and how much they've improved. The first 12 games, just 2 home runs, and then look what they've done in the last 23.
Sometimes things just start to click. You change a few things in practice, you do a couple things different, you evaluate your at-bats. And by the way, hitting is also contagious. You have one that starts to do it, 2 that start to do it, all of a sudden they start coming. And Lou Allen definitely an integral part of that home run hitting group.
That would be the definition of things clicking, I would say, is exactly what Michigan has done at the plate. Carol Hutchins had said, look, we know at the beginning of the year we have an elite pitching staff. Let's be honest, guys, let's not put pressure on ourselves to be an elite offense. We don't have to do that this year. What we have to be is consistent and efficient and take advantage of the opportunities. Lou Allen with a tough at-bat here against Amber Fiser.
I think so often, you got a pitching staff that's supposed to do their job, a defense that's supposed to do their job, and hitters that are supposed to do their job. They don't all have to be the same.
And she drills that one, a one-hopper there to Kenneth Mueller for the out. And it's Rodriguez advancing over to second base. That was a hot shot to the hot corner.
But a big out. Lou Allen got a bat on the ball. Kenneth Mueller so good there. on the corner. Made a good out. Smile from Fizer. And again, that's the out you want to get when you've been doing so well against the rest of the lineup. If you're Fizer, you want to get the one that you didn't get the first time around.
In steps Taylor Bump. And what a story she has been. Mentioned that her and Lou Allen, arguably the hottest hitters in this lineup right now. You saw the home run numbers, and a large part of why that number has accelerated is because of Allen and Bump as of late.
I think their at-bats have been good. If you see Fizer staying away on the plate, off the plate, excuse me, from Bump. If you're Bump, she's just stayed very patient.
Bump fouls that one back. A classic pitching duel between Amber Fizer and Megan Beaubien, and they're going about it in different ways. Megan Beaubien striking out batters. Amber Fizer letting her defense assist her tonight. The 2-1. And Bump takes that one for a ride, but it's foul.
You can see the kind of power that Bump has. She watched that one go all the way out. Big smile on her face. And Amber Fizer keeps that pitch on the inside corner and Bump turns on it. It will stay foul. I always look at pitchers and say, well, that's a long foul ball. That's all that is. Because I think sometimes hitters can feel a little bit like that's some momentum in their direction. But if you're a pitcher that's seasoned like Fizer, that means nothing but a strike.
And Fizer is smiling ear to ear too. I think these two pitchers, two competitors, love this championship atmosphere here this weekend. The 2-2 is foul. And you've been in that setting, Jenny Ritter, where you get the call to lead things off in a championship weekend, to set the table for your team.
You haven't. I haven't. It is, to me, you have to set the table early and set the tone. And I think both of these pitchers, again, neither of them hit. So all you can do is give your team a chance to win. And both of these pitchers are. But the first game to me is so important. When you go out there, you've got to mean business. And you can't give one away and give momentum one way or another. You've got to win that first one. And the best thing you can do is to get it outs as quick as possible.
Here's Bump, and lines one again to Kemet Mueller at third, and Rodriguez quickly returns to second base. Now 2 away.
Again, we talked about how good Kemet Mueller is at the hot corner. Look how much ground she covers to reach out and grab this. Just great reaction time. And as she catches it, looks back at Rodriguez at second base. See if she can make a play there. Very heads up. Very good job on the corner.
One of those super seniors. She had to make the decision to come back. A couple of outs now with runners in scoring position, though, for Hannah Carson. Here's your standings of the top two between Michigan and Minnesota, the top two in the Big Ten Conference. Just a combined 12 losses between the two of them, and just ropes it there to right field. That'll score Rodriguez, and it's extra bases for Carson. Just the hit that Michigan needed to go up 2-0.
Hannah Carson, really a fantastic at-bat. This pitch just too far over the plate. Normally Fizer gets it a touch further out. Carson does a good job going inside out. Gets her bat on the ball, drives it down the line. Gets herself all the way to second base and scores Rodriguez for, in this game, a second run can mean all the difference.
Carson is one of the batters this coaching staff was hoping would catch fire a little bit. All kinds of potential. She won't walk or strike out a lot and hasn't this year. Just 7 strikeouts, 3 walks coming into this weekend. And a huge and crucial hit for another insurance run for the Michigan Wolverines. And with 2 outs to boot, Julia Jimenez, she grounded out in the second.
I think the difference that you're seeing so far this game, just in terms of the offenses and their game plans, you're seeing that Michigan is more aggressive with their swings. They're attacking the pitches a little bit more than the Minnesota offense. And sometimes it comes down to, when you have 2 good pitchers, it comes down to who executes the game plan the best. And so far we've seen Michigan execute a little bit better.
Jimenez had a look in her eye, but Fizer blew it past her.
This pitch on the corner, belt high. She was looking at that big, took a big hack at it.
Look at that look that she gave her. 2 outs, 2-2 count. A runner at second base, it's Carson. And we'll do it again. What's Fizer go with here?
I think, you know, if there's one critique I have for Fizer, it's that I think that she needs to mix the pitches up just a touch more. I feel like you're seeing a lot of left and right. You need to introduce an up pitch a little bit more, maybe something lower in the zone. She's been effective with the pitch lower in the zone. Not even if Jimenez is not swinging at it, that's okay. You've introduced it. Now it can make your rise ball look like it jumps. It makes it look a little better. Make your other pitches look a little bit better. So there is key in introducing pitches in spite of the fact that they might not be strikes.
Long at bat, the payoff pitch to Jimenez. Seven pitches for this at bat between Jimenez and Fizer. Fly ball there to center field for the 3rd and final out. Michigan picks up some insurance run. Hannah Carson had the big hit, the double that scored Rodriguez. When you're talking about a cerebral pitcher, you're talking about a biomedical engineer in Megan Beaubien. This quote we pulled from a Michigan Daily feature: I don't want a high angle with the ground. I want my front foot as low to the ground as possible. Try to follow this along on her pitching mechanics. If I want to be technical about this, that's because if we're imagining a force vector, of course, from that drive foot, from my left foot, if it's going too far up, then I'm wasting force and energy. Of course, in the vertical direction, then I want to maximize the horizontal force. So I was just a journalism major. I had no idea what I just read. And so I'm going to turn to my other engineering major, Jenny Ritter, and you tell me, how do you connect the two from what she's learning at school to what she's doing here in the circle?
Well, you know, it's funny. She's obviously more technical than I ever was. Even with an engineering degree, she got better grades than me, it appears. But there is that technical part of everything that you do that when you learn in class about vectors and force and energy and maximizing.
And a single from that from McKenna Partain. She doesn't care about the engineering degree. She just takes it right to Beaubien, and that's the first hit of the game off of Megan Beaubien tonight.
You see a little shrug from Beaubien there as well. But just going back to that vector, just the stronger that she is, the more energy she'll have. This pitch is on the outside corner, but Partain first pitch hitting and doing a much better job her second time through the lineup, connecting with a pitch. You wouldn't ask for more than McKenna Partain to be the one to kind of break it open.
Now 1 on and no outs here as the leadoff hitter gets on in Partain and brings up Den Hartog. Well, we bring that up, you know, facing a talented hitter like Natalie Den Hartog. She did strike out in the first inning, but perfectly capable of the big hit. And when you get someone like McKenna Partain on, with Den Hartog following. You want to try to avoid the innings. So it'll be interesting to see if it's now Megan Beaubien's turn to try to flip the switch a little bit. And the reason why we brought up that quote and the fact that she's a biomedical engineer is the fact that we've addressed this part of Megan Beaubien. It's not necessarily a negative, it's just she's a thinker in the circle. And that's just the nature of who she is. And sometimes this Michigan coaching staff has said that can be a positive, but if you get too much inside your brain and start overthinking, that's where things can fall apart.
Yeah, and Coach Hutch talked to me a little bit, just saying that sometimes Megan Beaubien tries too hard to analyze things, so she ends up overanalyzing everything. And again, I understand it to a point. With an engineering mind, that's just what you do. I mean, that's kind of how you're taught in classes, is to analyze things and detail them and really understand. And Megan Beaubien is so detailed, and that makes her as good as she is. But at the same time, she's got to learn to step back and realize it's not about a game of perfection. Sometimes you just got to trust your gut, and you just got to do it. And a Megan Beaubien that isn't her best, where we're seeing her best here, in my opinion, even on her not best day, she's still a solid pitcher. And that's from a mental perspective, where any pitcher, Fizer or Beaubien or any pitcher, really needs to understand that sometimes it's just about performance.
Right off the end of the bat, Michigan, perhaps, I thought they might try to turn two, and they get the lead runner there in Partain for the first out. So an important ground ball out for Megan Beaubien, just the third of the game for her. And again, Partain was just the second base runner at the time and picked up the first hit against Beaubien here in the fourth. Now it's Caitlin Kemet-Mueller. Capable of hitting the long ball, tied for third on the team with home runs this year.
And really here in these last three batters, Partain, Den Hartog, and now Kemet-Mueller, even though Kemet-Mueller's just seen one pitch, they're more patient in the far out strike zone and waiting on their pitch.
Oh, that one was hit deep all the way to the warning track. And she got a hold of it as Den Hartog trots back to first base.
But again, still better at bats than we saw, you know, strikeout after strikeout after strikeout the first time through that lineup. The second time, you know, it's always an interesting thing for me when you look at a pitcher. They don't need to reinvent themselves per se, but they do need to reevaluate what they're throwing. If you're throwing a lot of strikeouts, a lot of times you just go with it because you're still getting outs if you're Megan Beaubien, but you're not getting strikeouts now. So it'll give her a chance to go back and really evaluate what she's doing and maybe change her pitches up a little bit as well.
I see Alex Storako, the other ace from Michigan, getting warmed up here in the bullpen. And Jen Brundage, the pitching coach here for Michigan, so much credit in the fact that, and you've worked with her, Jenny, in the fact that she has developed these pitchers. You know, obviously you have to start with talent, but she has crafted and molded and worked with them. And sometimes she even says when she does that walk to Megan Beaubien, she sometimes just asks Megan Beaubien questions and she lets Megan Beaubien figure out the answers. She doesn't give her the answers.
I think that's the testament of what Jennifer Brundage does. She knows how to talk to her pitchers. And pitchers are very different. Every single pitcher is different. No pitchers, like you heard Piper Ritter talk about, Peace and Fizer both, that aren't like her, so she doesn't want to try to teach them exactly the way she was. She wants them to be themselves. Jen Brundage is the same way. You've got it. Pitchers are, I always say, special creatures because there's a lot of pressure on them.
Through the 5-6 hole that time, a big hit for Chloe Evans, a 2-out hit. And now 2 on here for Minnesota. Perhaps a big inning in the fourth for the Gophers.
This pitch, an outside pitch. Chloe Evans just adjusts and hits it to the opposite side of the field, way outside, but gets a bat on it. Finds a way to get on. In Chloe Evans' opinion, if she can hit it, if it's hittable, she's going to put it in place, and she made that adjustment.
There's a reason why they've inserted her into the starting lineup That third game of the Nebraska series, and she has taken advantage of it. Now it's the freshman, Sarah Kinch. Minnesota trying to put together a little two-out rally here.
You should, if this is, you know, a Minnesota team that battles and is tough and is gritty, and they've got the defense, they've got the pitching, they've got the hitting. They just got to wait for the hitting to come through. And they're really making something happen here. It's something where I think answering back here in this inning.
And Kinch lets it fly, but a high pop-up there to short. And so leaving 2 on with a runner in scoring position for the first time. No score for Minnesota. Tonight's State Farm State of Success. You go back to the Big Ten tournament champions, Minnesota, Michigan, Minnesota, 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 and then the Wolverines in the last Big Ten tournament that was played in 2019. I mean, talk about domination when it comes to the postseason, the conference postseason for both of these teams. And again, as a reminder, there will be no Big Ten tournament this year. And so the regular season champ will be the ones who get the automatic bid into the NCAA tournament.
These are just two programs who have really just grown. And, you know, Michigan's always been kind of a powerhouse throughout, you know, the nation for a long time, but Minnesota has really stepped into the national conversation to me a little bit more. And starting with, you know, when Coach Jessica Allister was there and built the program and brought in great pitchers, great hitters, changed the mindset of what Minnesota softball was. And now you see them just battling with anybody out there. They could beat anybody.
Well, a couple of those championships, again, went to extra innings. And just something to watch anytime you watch both of these teams play. You talk to Piper Ritter, who has the unique experience of being a player against Michigan, being an assistant coach, and now for the first time being a head coach in this series. And she understands what kind of rival the Michigan Wolverines have certainly become. And Esman at the plate. Now, I mentioned, of course, that there is not a Big Ten tournament championship. That is something that was decided by the Big Ten Conference. In fact, this whole regular season is a conference-only regular season. And in an ideal world, the goal was to play 44 regular season games, all within the conference. So no non-conference games this year, as Esman puts it into play and Pfizer takes care of it. Now, the twist of that is that the RPI has not been favorable for these Big Ten teams here this year. But the argument of these Big Ten softball coaches is, look, in the past, when we're talking about making the NCAA tournament, at minimum, the Big Ten Conference is getting 4 teams into the NCAA tournament. This is a pandemic year, and Carol Hutchins is kind of urging the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee to consider those kind of circumstances and evaluate that all these Big Ten teams are playing each other. So, of course, the RPI is not going to be as strong. But she says, look at the past and what this conference has done, at least 4, and she believes at least 4 this year in Michigan, Minnesota, Northwestern, and Illinois are worthy of tournament consideration.
Yeah, and I mean, I think when you go and you look at those top 4 teams here in the Big Ten, you've got Michigan, you've got Minnesota, Northwestern, and Illinois. All of them have competed at a level that they have in the previous years that have gotten them into the tournament. I'm talking about 3 of them that were seeded in 2019.
Well, the RPI stands as this, and there is where all the 4 of those teams stand in the RPI. These softball coaches have actually even taken it to another level and compared the way other sports have been evaluated, most recently the sport of volleyball. Here's the 2-1 to Kirsten as she fouls it off. In the fact that if you look at the top 16 seeds in the sport of volleyball, the top 16 seeds had anywhere from an RPI of 20 to an RPI of 90 because the selection committee realized how unique this year is and that some of those conferences only played conference-only schedules this year. The 2-2 to Kirsten and catches the outside corner, the second strikeout for Amber Pfizer.
I think when you look at somebody like Amber Pfizer and the way this team plays, look at this beautiful pitch on the outside corner on a beautiful called third strike. Kirsten cannot pull the trigger. I mean, you look at the talent that these teams have and the quality that they are. If you're paying attention to Big Ten softball, you're seeing these as contenders in the NCAA tournament. And I think that's, you know, something that you can take potentially from volleyball, that evaluating the teams by watching them, seeing how they play, seeing how they compete, allowed the committee to really make some differences in seeding, even based on a lower RPI this year.
Hogenrod off the glove, what a catch! McKenna Partain, a little juggle job. And again, she got it done. A Big Ten standout presented by Auto Owners Insurance. Partain at second base. What? Hang on for the third and final out. Tomorrow, the 2021 Big Ten Men's Lacrosse Tournament champion will be crowned. Johns Hopkins battles Maryland. Live coverage begins tomorrow at 8 Eastern on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. And of course, during the day, you can catch a little softball, including the doubleheader between both of these teams. Right now, we're in the fifth, and it'll be the 7, 8, and 9 hitters for Minnesota. And again, kind of what you addressed, Jenny, in the last inning. Emily Hansen awfully aggressive on that first pitch against Megan Beaubien.
Yeah, I think we saw patience first time through the lineup, and now you've got to make those adjustments. You're seeing good pitches from Beaubien in her first pitch. And that's a little bit like what Piper Ritter talks about, is the best pitch you may see is the first or second one. She as a pitcher always win at the batters. I know I as a pitcher always win at the batters with the first or second strikeout. So you see Megan Beaubien 11 of 16 first pitch strikeouts. You've got to be aggressive at that first pitch.
Oh, the 0-2 and a hard grounder snagged by Beaubien. Talk about a reaction.
I don't think that was anything but a reaction, but if you ask Megan Beaubien, I'm sure she could relate it to vectors and energy. But there's nothing about this but a reaction. Pitchers, no way when that ball comes at you that hard that you're not just reaction. But if you see it, she just did a good job not letting it get to her. Sometimes you get all hyped up. She just grabs it, takes her time, composes herself, makes the throw.
Oh, throw that glove down at a 90-degree angle and you're good.
Yeah. There have been too many times where I've seen pitchers field it and go to make an easy throw and overthrow it or get too excited. So I always love a pitcher that fields their position.
That was really good contact made by Emily Hansen. Sydney Strelo now at the plate here for Minnesota. There's that change, just missing the outside.
Beaubien has been introducing her changeup just a little bit more to these Minnesota batters, just throwing that secondary thing into her repertoire where she didn't use it as much the first time through the lineup.
Are you surprised she didn't use it as much first time through the lineup?
For Beaubien, yes, a little bit. And she did use it. It's not like she didn't use it at all. For a lot of pitchers, that's kind of what you hold back in your arsenal to kind of go the second time around and get a different look, which is why she's throwing it more. But at the same time, if I'm Beaubien and I have a heavy changeup the way she does, I'm going to throw it a lot.
Yeah, I was going to say, a lot of times that's how you evaluate her success, right? Like, you look at that speed differential, 68, topping out at 68.
Yep. And you don't want it to be too much lower than 50 because that allows a batter to kind of reset. So it's got to be just fast enough but slow enough from your main pitch. And again, her changeup is so good. Maybe I'm having changeup jealousy or changeup envy because mine was never that good. But I would throw it a lot because I think it's just fun to watch batters swing and miss at it. Not so fun for the batter, I don't think.
Well, here's the full count to Strelo. Check swing, and she drew the walk, the first walk.
Beautiful job by Strelo. And this is what we're seeing an improvement in what Minnesota's doing at bat. They're making adjustments. This is a pitch that you saw the first time through the lineup that they were swinging at. Way outside on the zone. But Strelo stays back on it, holds her bat back, and earns a spot on first base.
All right, in steps the number 9 hitter, Carly Brandt, or we might be getting we got a pinch runner there at first base. That's the change that's being made for Minnesota. Macy Gill is your pinch runner for Strelo. And Carly Brandt will remain your hitter for Minnesota. You see Gill there talking to assistant coach Caitlin Richardson, also a Minnesota great. But Carly Brandt had a really good at-bat, long at-bat. She ended up grounding out in the 3rd inning. And it is a 9-pitch at-bat for Brandt in her first time up against Megan Beaubien, and now gets to see her for a 2nd time.
Carly Brandt, I mean, again, she does what she can at the plate. She's a defensive specialist. She's been in the lineup. She's played every position except for catcher for Minnesota. But her bat has always been bottom of the lineup and expected to turn it over and just be productive as possible. And in my opinion, that first time through the lineup, she had the best at bat of her entire team.
Well, the most versatile player for sure. She also is a super senior on this roster. And Brandt skying that one foul. Piper Ritter watched Brandt win a state title in high school as a pitcher. And then she was able to play so many other fielding positions with her travel team. And if you follow the Minnesota story, you know that Carly Brandt has played 8 of the 9 positions in her career at Minnesota. She chases the outside pitch.
And that's the first pitch I've seen from Brandt. She's laughing at it too. The first pitch I've seen from her that she has fished for and not been patient at the plate. And that pitch way outside.
Now with 2 strikes on her. Beaubien gets her with the change and throws her for the 8th strikeout.
And this is why Megan Beaubien is good. Again, we're talking about Carly Brandt battling and patient. She stays off this outside pitch, then fouls off a good strike, makes a mistake here, swings at a pitch way outside, and then, oh, here comes this nasty changeup that just freezes Brandt for the strikeout.
Well, we said that Ellie Jensen could re-enter into this game, and she will do it here in the 5th inning. And so Jensen had the first at-bat at the leadoff spot in the 1st inning. Allie Lindner took her spot in right field and had an at-bat in the 3rd inning, and now Jensen re-enters into this game here in the 5th. And with 2 outs, she swings at that first pitch. She might beat it, and she does. Hey, whatever way possible.
Allie Jensen, how about first pitch swinging? She is a slapper. Allie Lindner is not a slapper, so it could have been a situational thing. But look at the speed of Ellie Jensen. She gets that ball down on the ground, a slow roller. Beaubien does everything she can to turn and throw it. As a lefty, she has to kind of step around it to make the throw. But Jensen, too quick. Finds a way to get on base.
And that brings Jen Brundage back to the circle. So both of these teams will get a chance to chat about it. What do you think the message is here from Brundage to Beaubien?
Well, first of all, it looks like Brundage is talking instead of letting Megan Beaubien tell the answer to start. But I think, you know, one thing that Jen Brundage does so well is that she knows her pitchers. If Megan Beaubien's pitches aren't moving the way that Brundage expects them, she's going to go out there and she's going to talk it out. She's going to remind her that there's 2 outs. She's going to remind her that all she has to do is get another out, bring her kind of back to what's going on, back to the peace that she has when she throws, and not worry about those runners on base. I mean, I think sometimes that's all it is just calming down a pitcher.
And then she has to come back and to report to the head coach, like you see there in the dugout. Get Carol Hutchins up to speed on that.
One thing I will tell you is that if Coach Hutchins comes out to the circle, it's a very different conversation than when Coach Jen Brundage does.
You don't say.
I don't know that Hutch has sometimes she just tells you how she feels as opposed to Jen Brundage, who really works through the problem. So it's the difference in coaches, and I love every bit of it when I played, but boy, I knew what I was getting when Coach Hutchins walked out.
Oh, I bet. At least it's a night game, so she doesn't have those glasses on, the sunglasses, right?
Right.
Got that steely stare sometimes in game. Well, this is a opportunity for sure here for Minnesota. Now, in the last inning, they left a runner in scoring position, and now back-to-back innings, they find themselves in the same spot. And that's the hitter you really want at the plate.
When you talk about the value of that conference in the circle, Beaubien gets ahead 0-2 on McKenna Partain, the one hitter who, to me, has the most confidence against anybody she faces. And I think that is a big statement to Beaubien to really get back on track of where she is. But Partain is such a dangerous hitter with 2 on.
She's got 2 strikes on her right now. Oh, that was close. Ball 1.
You get 0-2 and throw a pitch like this on the corner, low, and it's a ball, but it's barely a ball. Even Partain, I think, took a second look at that, but that's seniority. That's her ability to just be calm and mature at the plate.
The 1-2 now to Partain, and that one well out of the strike zone. 2-2 now the count. It was the 6th 0-2 count for Beaubien so far in this game, but Partain has done a good job to battle back to even it up. Partain lets it fly. Can that one drop in? And over the shoulder grab for Rodriguez. And again, Michigan shuts the door on that Minnesota offense. Your game summary: Michigan got one in the first with a solo home run by Lou Allen, and then Hannah Carson with the RBI double in the 4th. But outside of that, it has been a pitcher's duel between Amber Fiser and Megan Beaubien. And as you just saw, Zenny Ritter with Minnesota, look at the 5 left on base here for the Gophers. Certainly some empty opportunities for this Minnesota offense.
Yeah, and I think that's really the difference of the game. You take the home run away, Michigan manufactured a run, Minnesota has not yet. And I think once they do and they understand and kind of make those adjustments, you're going to see a very different game. And remember, Lisa, we've got 3 more games after this with the same teams. It's such a chess match, and it's such a balance of trying to figure out who makes the next move and who can really push the quality at bats and timely hitting through to score some runs. Right now it's Michigan, but it could be Minnesota at any second.
Well, that Saturday doubleheader, if you talk to any Big Ten coach this year, they'll tell you that Saturday doubleheader is brutal to get through. I mean, if you think about the hours that you're at the softball diamond, your 2nd and 3rd game of the series, and then by the time you get to that 4th game on Sunday, you know, you're tapped out. It really is a battle of wills when you get to maybe game 3 and certainly game 4 of the weekend set this year.
You know, Piper Ritter talked about it just comes down to the toughest teams. So I tell my team, we got to be tougher. And, you know, it's easier said than done in a lot of cases, but it is the truth.
The 0-2 on Blair.
You have all of your, you know, your tricks are on the table. You're not holding anything back in general. And so by game 3, game 4, not only the amount of time you're out playing in a doubleheader, but then you get into game 4, like, you have nothing to hide. And that is really difficult to have a team that knows everything about you, knows everything that you're capable of doing, has experienced it just recently, and then go out and try to beat them.
2-2 count here on Lexi Blair. You could argue, too, that the Big Ten teams who get into the postseason, this 4-game setup can really set them up for some success in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I go back and I think about, you know, the 05 World Series and the things we did, just playing a late night game and then having to turn around and play 2 the next day, and doing it on gas and exhaustion and not knowing anything, but moving forward in 1 foot in front of the other and trying to throw a pitch that moves, because that's all you've got. And yeah, you might not be playing the same team, but to me, in a lot of cases, a game 3, game 4 against the same team can be a little bit more difficult.
Fizer, after all of that, a really good battle between one of the best pitchers in the Big Ten and the best hitter in the Big Ten in Lexi Blair. And she put her on base after this pitch.
Yeah, that pitch just got way too up and in. You want to stay in on Lexi Blair, but you don't want to give her the base. And you know, that's something that Piper Ritter talks to her pitchers about. She never wants to give free passes. I'm kind of a stickler for that too. I can't stand free passes, especially leadoff hitters. You want to make sure that, you know, that's where it can hurt the most.
14 hit batters for the year for Amber Fizer, and in steps Rodriguez. Have you ever found a pitching coach that said it's okay to give free passes?
Good point. No, but I think there are some that I think don't hound on it as much. I know Coach Hutchins does. I know Piper Ritter does, and you know, you just see too much go downhill from free passes. I don't know. I also didn't like to walk people intentionally, so I was the opposite. I'd probably throw it down the middle too much.
Rodriguez scoring around for bunt, and it's a beauty. And Kemet Mueller has to go for the out at first base, and the sacrifice moving Blair over to second.
Talk about the value of that hitter that's in that second spot. Doesn't always bunt these days. You know, it used to be you get your leadoff runner on, you bunt him over, you play the game that way, the textbook way of playing it. Well, it's not how the game is necessarily played anymore. And so Rodriguez, to be able to be a good bunter and get that down, but also be able to produce differently, there's a lot of value to have her in that 2 spot.
Lou Allen at the plate. So far has the game-winning hit here with that solo home run. Made it 1-0. And the go-ahead here for the Wolverines in the first inning and her first at-bat. Sits on that one. The outside pitch.
Kind of see that look with Fizer. Just the pitch got away from her a little bit. You get here later in the innings and you start getting fatigued. You start missing your pitches a little bit. Clearly, Piper Ritter saw it as well.
You know, we mentioned that Lou Allen has struggled with injuries her first few years, and Bonnie Thole, and the associate head coach here at Michigan, actually had a conversation with Lou Allen. She said, look what I kept here on my iPad. How about Lou Allen hitting in the batting cage for the Firecrackers, her travel team? Look at this swing. And Lou Allen was even just young. Right? And Jenny, you were saying that there was even just talk back then about the potential that she could have as a hitter in college.
Part of the Firecrackers organization, and just when you talk about that team and you talk about, you know, the key players on that a program that's very good all the time, that turn around and the one person they talk about, Lou Allen, man, she's good. You know, she can hit the ball. And it was always that kind of conversation.
Well, she drove that one to right field, though, for the out. And after that solo shot in the first inning, they've gotten her out now a couple of times. Molly Jensen staying there in right field after re-entering into this game. Here comes Taylor Bump. Inside, Will Fizer in this defense getting Lou Allen, one of the best RBI producers here for this Michigan offense. Let's see what they can do here with Taylor Bump. Looking for her first hit here of the night. Bump the slow ground ball to Kemet Mueller. Getting the 3-4 hitters out with a runner in scoring position. Nicely done here for Minnesota. They got 3, 4, and 5 themselves coming up. It's been a little bit of a hot, maybe lukewarm kind of night here for Megan Beaubien. The first 10 batters she's faced, 7 strikeouts, just 1 base runner. And then Minnesota's kind of figured something out.
Yeah, Minnesota just found a way to make adjustments to not get those strikeouts. I think that the first time through that lineup, they really just expanded the strike zone. They let Megan Beaubien throw her pitches, and they swung at them. And since then, they've really adjusted. They've not been able to push a run across the plate yet, but again, 5 runners left on base. They're knocking on the door. They're trying to make it happen. But a credit to Beaubien and the Michigan defense to find a way to get out of it.
Yeah, well, this could be the inning to make it happen for Minnesota. Again, 3, 4, and 5, starting out with Natalie Den Hartog. Dangerous hitters in this lineup. You mentioned the 5 left on base. Did Den Hartog? No, she didn't go around. But
this bat has to cross the plane of the plate. Up in the zone, she does hold it back. Beautiful job by Den Hartog. But anything at your eyes, you've got to stay back on it. You've got to sit.
There's that change that Beaubien's brought in. More and more.
And you feel like you've got control of what's happening. You just had a win where you pulled your bat back, got a ball, and then they come in with that changeup. Megan Beaubien not afraid to throw it over the plate.
1-2 on Den Hartog. She chases the high one, and look at that. A base hit through the infield.
And that's one of the things that Piper Ritter said, you know, when we talked to her, they've got to be able to hit the rise ball. And this pitch was up in the zone. Den Hartog got up on top of that pitch, grounds it through a hole in the infield. And nothing really pretty about it, but it was a gritty at bat.
And we will have a pitching change coming up now. A gut decision made by the Michigan coaching staff. It's Alex Storako who has entered into the circle. And remember, she went the distance in a midweek Wednesday game against Michigan State. The last time she was in the circle, she set a program record, 22 strikeouts against the Spartans. And here was her day on Wednesday.
She was just phenomenal. Her pitches moved in and out of the zone, up in the zone. Michigan State could not figure her out. And look at the energy that she brings in that circle. Easy to have it when you're feeling that good.
Her season numbers pretty good, but you know, that record that she broke, Jenny Ritter, was Jenny Ritter's record, by the way. That actually, with the 19 strikeouts, that actually Storako and Beaubien had tied your record this year. And you see those strikeouts up to 219. That is good for, I think, tied for 8th in the country going into this weekend.
I'll tell you what, when you feel it, you feel it. And she just spins the ball so well, and it keeps batters from really finding a way to dig in on her. Mid-60s, like I said, a spinning pitcher, but she's got that high strikeout percentage because she spins it in and out of that zone. So when you look at a Megan Beaubien who had a successful evening, that Minnesota was starting to get some more hits. You need somebody that can change it up a little bit, spin it a little bit different. You got a righty in there now and force Minnesota to make other adjustments. And by the way, start with a changeup.
And how tough is it for these Minnesota batters? You mentioned you go from a lefty to a righty, and now you got to adjust to that in game.
Well, I think, you know, there's positives and negatives. You take away that lefty curveball to a lefty, and you've got a lot of lefties on this Minnesota offense. But, I mean, look at the spin of that pitch. It just kind of floats up and away. And this is when we talk about spinning pitchers. Watch as it kind of goes up, in the glove of Hannah Carson just kind of has to trail after it because it's late break. When you have late break pitches like that, they're hard to hit. That's where Minnesota's going to have to just have studied Alex Storako and be patient in what she's throwing. So far, so good here.
Against Kemet Mueller. She went upstairs with that pitch.
He makes the big money.
Check swing, in for a strike.
And that's this low rising pitch that kind of comes up in the zone, but still comes in as a strike. Kemet Mueller's got to make a decision on that.
Ball first, you guys. Ball first.
That one rising just out of the zone, and the count goes full.
This is the best thing you can do for your Minnesota team if you're Caitlin Kemet Mueller. She's seen pitches. She's worked it into a full count. I always say you got to welcome a pitcher to the game. This is how you welcome her to the game. You sit back and you earn your spot on base.
And now she'll take a seat. The first strikeout and the first batter that Alex Storako sees.
Again, just beautiful spinning pitch up and in on Kemet Mueller's hands. Not a bad pitch for her to swing at, but it just moved away from her bat.
Storako and Beaubien, who's now in the dugout watching. They combined for the best ERA in the country this year. You're talking about an ace and an ace. And like this Michigan coaching staff has said, you know, if we start with Megan Beaubien, we love to bring in an Alex Storako. We start with Alex Storako, we can bring in a Megan Beaubien. And few teams have that luxury this year.
And they really just complement each other so well. One's east-west, one goes up-down. Both have changeups. One's a lefty, one's a righty. And by the way, they're both good too. So when you bring them in and you balance it out, it just forces batters to have to make quicker adjustments.
And two batters up, two batters down. The second strikeout for Storako.
Storako starts her pitches in the zone, curves them out. They always bite a touch of the corner. Evans and Kemet Mueller did not swing at bad pitches. They just swung at pitches that they didn't get a hold of. Credit to something that, you know, a closer in Storako right now.
Keep in mind, this pitching staff taking care of the middle of the order for Minnesota. Sarah Kinch, she struck out in the second against Beaubien. Popped out in the fourth inning. And now her first time facing Storako, the 0-1.
Storako has spun in and out of the zone most of the pitches she's thrown so far tonight. And then you finally have Sarah Kinch who stays patient on a pitch and it goes straight down the middle. It's one of those pitches that you sit back and you're patient, you got to make a decision on. That was probably the best pitch that she will have seen the entire night.
This Michigan pitching staff now has combined for 10 strikeouts here tonight. Beaubien's 8 to the 2 that you've just seen by Storako. The 1-2, caught her looking. What a relief performance by Alex Storako. Just absolutely froze Sarah Kinch, and you know who loves it? Megan Beaubien, that's who. 2 runs here for Michigan, that's been the difference. It started with the third batter in the first inning. Lou Allen, the solo shot at Michigan was on the board in style, Lou Allen style. It was 1-0 Michigan. And then in the fourth, Anna Carson, the big RBI double scoring. Natalia Rodriguez, that's been the only scoring that has happened between both of these teams. A pitcher's duel that we've seen with 3 pitchers from each of these teams, and 2-0 in the top of the 7th for Michigan as they tried to add more insurance to that score. And again, if we play all 4 games of this weekend set, and Michigan is to win all 4 games, they would clinch the Big Ten regular season championship. But they have to play all 4 games, and the Wolverines have to win all 4. Here is Carson, who had that RBI double and grounds out into the first out of the 7th. Minnesota's had its chances. 6 runners left on base here so far.
Pfizer's given him a chance. Their defense has done a good job. There haven't been any real miscues there. It's Michigan that has really managed to manufacture a couple runs, but I think you give a lot of credit to Pfizer for keeping her team in this game.
Well, she's been solid. Well, I mentioned 11 combined strikeouts for this Michigan pitching staff between Storako and Beaubien, but it's been Pfizer just with the 2 strikeouts, but she's been solid in terms of putting it in play for her defense and letting her defense take care of things. And both essentially have been effective. And Jimenez eyeing that one, and it's another home run for the Michigan Wolverines. That one hurts. The 3rd home run of the year, and Jimenez and Michigan jump out 3-0.
Amber Pfizer knew this the moment it came off the bat. This pitch up in the zone. She knew the pitch did not move. Jimenez watching it go over that fence. Look at the excitement that she has as she drives this pitch, just squares up on a ball.
And look at Hutch, you know, she throws M&Ms, but in the COVID year, you don't get single M&Ms, you get the bag, the entire bag of M&Ms this year.
A win for the Michigan softball team that hits home runs or makes it to 3rd base.
Right, the players win on that deal for sure. They would only get like 1 or 2 rounding those bases. That's a tradition that Carol Hutchins has had for many, many years.
I think, you know, a big takeaway here so far is that Michigan's continuing to battle and find a way to push runs across. And you're talking about a 4-game series here that you don't want to score in the first inning. This is something that Michigan's typically doing, is they score in bunches, and they have not this game. They've really scored throughout the game. And it's a good indication of what is to come, hopefully, for Coach Hutch. Offensively.
Well, the pinch hitter here for Michigan, Lexi Voss, who has made the opportunities when she's gotten them really in the last few series. Pinch hitting this time for Esman. It's a rocket shot right at Partain, but she got good contact on it. And now Thais Gonzalez will come to the plate. So back-to-back pinch hitters in the 7 and 8 spot for Michigan.
Voss and Gonzalez, 2 hitters that throughout the course of the series, they may need to ask to come in tight situations and make something happen. So the more at-bats they're able to get, the better.
Gonzalez is a graduate student, one of the veterans and one of the older players on this Michigan roster, getting an opportunity to get an at-bat here in this series. Actually had in a shortened COVID season last year, actually had an outstanding year last year, and then ran into an illness and was out of the lineup a little bit. Hasn't gotten back into her offensive flow this year. And so a great opportunity for her. And Pfizer gets the outside pitch that time for the 2nd strike.
I always think with pinch hitters, when you're a pitcher and you come in and see pinch hitters, you want to go and attack the plate. These are hitters who have not seen you. They've not seen your movement, and so you always, to me, I always felt like you had a little bit of a leg up.
Well, she gets Gonzalez swinging. But damage again was done by the long ball here for Michigan. Julia Jimenez, the third home run. Trot around and enjoy those M&Ms on your way out. Tomorrow, the weekend showdown here in Minneapolis continues. A doubleheader of action. Sunday at 3 Eastern, you can see live coverage of the series finale. It's all this weekend on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. Alex Storako in the last inning, the 35th time that she struck out 3 batters in an inning. And you mentioned the 22 strikeouts that she had against Michigan State on Wednesday. There was a period of time in that game where she actually had a streak of 13 straight strikeouts in that game. Minnesota's last opportunity here in the bottom of the 7th. Emily Hansen, 7, 8, and 9 to try to keep the hopes of Minnesota alive here on this Friday night. The 2-0.
And that game plan against Storako needs to be see that ball down. Anytime she brings it up in that zone, you just need to stay back, sit back, and not swing at it. And Hansen's done that so far, that changeup coming in for a strike. 2 in a row of Storako couldn't get that rise ball in that zone, so she came with 2 changeups in a row. Now Hansen's got to be swinging. She's got to be on her toes, battling waiting for what she wants.
Caught her looking. All of her outs have come via the strikeout. She just picks up where she left off on Wednesday.
And this pitch is beautifully on the corner, catching that corner. I thought Hansen started off well, staying patient, but in the end, almost a little too patient. She needed to really pull the trigger on some of those later pitches, especially when Storako brings it within that strike zone.
First pitch strikes to all of the batters that she saw in the 6th, are all of the ones that she struck out. And another first pitch strike here to Sydney Strelo. .60-mile-per-hour offering.
That pitch just missed a little bit low. Not the pitch. You can see the smile on Storako's face, not meant to be there.
Look at the movement.
She's just taking command of that off speed every single time. It kind of is heavy and drops out, but you're Minnesota, take note of that, because it has been in the strike zone the entire time she's thrown it.
Gets her upstairs. She's faced 6 batters and struck out 5 of the 6 so far.
It's not fun when you see that changeup and then she comes at you with this rise ball that's got beautiful spin to it. And Strelo has to go for it because it starts in that strike zone and out.
Now it's Carly Brandt. She's looking for a hit. Grounded out in the 3rd, struck out in the 5th. And again, yeah, it's tough to hit.
Every time, though, she's bringing it in for a strike. If you're Carly Brandt, you're evaluating what has happened with the other batters ahead of you. When she comes at you with a ball, that rise ball, when Storako comes at you with that rise ball first, she answers it with that changeup. You'd sit and go for it. if you can be patient enough and if you can be disciplined enough to sit back and really drive it. Right here, the way Storraco's been throwing, with a 2-1 count, you'd almost expect that she's going to go at Brandt with a changeup here.
Storraco with the 2-1 to Brandt, and that's on the outside. Catches the outside. You know, Jenny, I need to correct myself. It's Storraco has actually struck out every single batter that she's faced so far since she's entered in the 6th inning. Five batters faced, 5 strikeouts make it 6 for 6. What a way to get her first save of the season. Alex Storraco coming in relief. Megan Beaubien picking up the win. And Michigan taking the first of 4 against Minnesota on this Friday night.
There is no better way to come in on relief than to find a way to make your pitches move enough to get 6 strikeouts in your 2 innings. I think that's an outstanding job. Beaubien and Storraco work so well together. I mean, these pitches just move beautifully in that zone. That the last pitch to end the game as it curves up and in the strike zone. One of the only strikes that she threw fast, as she went mostly with her changeup, but what a way to end the game. And look at the excitement that Storraco has as she finishes off.
15 shutouts for this Michigan pitching staff this year, and what a duo this is. Ace to ace. An elite pitching staff was absolutely elite here tonight. 15th team shutout this year. Alex Storraco picking up her first save of the year, and Megan Beaubien picking up another win, number 12 on the season. Well, that'll be the first of 4 that we will show you here this weekend. Make sure again to tune in tomorrow for the doubleheader between these 2 teams. Our coverage begins at 2:30 Eastern right here on the Big Ten Network. Softball fans in particular, Minnesota softball fans, don't go away. Now after this, it'll be the Minnesota softball video recall of some of those Big Ten tournament championships against Michigan that you can enjoy. For Jenny Ritter, our entire broadcast crew, I'm Lisa Byington. Good night for now. We'll see you tomorrow.